Oh, mm, mm. Okay. I think I'm live everywhere. I think I'm live everywhere. Good morning. Mm, okay. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Grand rising and good day. Come in, come in, come in, come in. Have a seat, have a seat, have a seat. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Tuesday, happy Mars Day. Make sure y'all say good morning and tap that screen. Good morning. Mm. So this morning, I hadn't been live in a few days. So I decided to hop on this morning, talk about my spiritual awakening journey, especially since I have a new 6-month program for folks, taking them through how to ground self love in their own journey and cultivate a spiritual practice. So I said, why not pop on and talk about having my own conscious awakening? And come on in, come on in. Bring your breakfast, bring your coffee. I'm personally enjoying a cupcake left over from my birthday, and it's quite delicious. So, for those that have never popped on here before or not following me, make sure you do follow. Hi, my name is Dania, and I'm a spiritual awakening doula at Nia's Garden of Divine Expansion, affectionately known as Nia's Divine Garden for short. Link is in the bio if you want to go check that out. But I wanted to today talk about awakenings. And I think I've decided today to do this based upon some healing and things that I have been doing recently as I'm going through yet another awakening. So, first off, what does it mean to have an awakening? And this is my own personal, kind of like as little terminology that people who are new in the journey may not understand. So, first and foremost, we are always having a spiritual journey. So, when some people say, well, I'm beginning a spiritual journey, I feel like that's kind of misleading. You're always on a spiritual journey because you are always both in the physical and spiritual. You are wholly both. You're both human with a physical vessel, and you're both divine with a spirit, a soul, an essence that is non corporeal. Both of these things are coexisting and coexisting at the exact same time. You're not in one or the other, you're existing in both states at the same time. So to say you're just now having a spiritual journey, I think it's off because you're always having a spiritual journey. Good morning to everyone coming in. Good morning. Good morning. So that's number one. What I would say happens is we have a consciously awareness. And when I say conscious, this is not like when you're conscious of something, you are aware of it. You know that it's happening. You know that this is taking place. Whereas the rest of the time, you may not even realize what's happening, but you've gone through the journey anyway. But you're consciously aware when you start saying things like I've had a spiritual awakening, things like that. These are just the awakenings that you're consciously aware of. You've had multiple awakenings in your life. And it's interesting to me, like Facebook, gives you the memories. And so you go through these Facebook memories and you realize I was going through something at that time. And you can see it now, but you could not see it then. You'll look at a post, and maybe you posted something. Like recently, I looked at a post, and it was about I wanted to sit under the moon and align chakras with somebody. And this was maybe almost 4 years ago. So I'm just like, yeah, the seeds were happening. There were seeds being planted that were coming to me, but I was not still wholly aware that I was in fact having a spiritual awakening at that time because I wasn't consciously aware of it. But you have them all throughout your life. But then there's that awakening that you're consciously aware that you're having. Good morning, good morning, good morning. You're aware that you're consciously aware that you're having an awakening. And you're like, oh, okay, well, let me check into this and let me look at that and let me look at this thing. And this is why I decided to do this work, is because what I notice when I look at people on social media and things like that, the things that they speak of most prominently are the things that tore them down, that tore them apart. And I feel like maybe if I share my story, you can see that that's not the whole picture. There's something else. And I also feel like my hi, good morning, good morning, good morning. I also feel like for me, my awakening journey is so different from the way I hear other people's journeys came about, especially with me initiating and crowning. Like my journey is just different from other people's. So I said, well, maybe sharing my journey and what I did. And these are the things that I would, in the new program I'm working on, also be able to share. So I started my, I was consciously aware that I was having an awakening in 2020. I would say that the awakening itself, though, began maybe 2019. 2019 is actually when it began. And I give credit to a couple of different things for triggering it. First and foremost was womb healing. I am someone who is diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, affectionately known for short. And so I have an infertility condition. And so prior to me having my sons, I did not think I could get pregnant naturally. I was on hormone therapy, things of that nature, and all of the things that come with PCOS, including this disdain for the parts of my body that wholly defined me as being a womb holder. I did not have a love or affection for any of them, because with PCOS, there are so many different things that make them less enjoyable in your life. So what I discovered around 2018, 2019 is some natural products for my lady parts. And when I say, and I'm just going to plug her, this is not sponsored in any way, I just genuinely love her products. But Juice's Skincare's Yoni line, when I say I used her soap and it washed away all of my sins, I felt brand new. Like it was brand new. It was completely brand new. She was brand new when I used that soap. And I was like, is what she's supposed to feel like all the time? Oh my word. So that's where it started. And I say that's where it started is because, especially for womb holders, this is where our gateway is to source. Like womb holders are natural portals to the creator. We like whether we choose to birth a human vessel, it does not negate that there's a literal portal within our body that connects heaven and earth. So having a disconnect with that area of our person disconnects us from the notion that we are divine. It disconnects us from the seat of our power. And so the moment I started to fall in love with this area of my body again, that's when things started to come. That's when things started to come. So the first book I found shortly thereafter was called Kitty Cat Prayers. I don't mean kitty cat. You know the word that I mean. Kitty cat prayers. So I found this book and all right, now go. Mommy's working. Thank you. uh, Kitty cat prayers. And so I'm reading this book and this is where I started. Okay, it started beginning there. Then I see a Facebook post, and the Facebook post was someone making moon water. And I am an Aquarius sun. I am intrigued by all things. There has never been a thing that did not intrigue me. I am intrigued by all the things because Aquarius is a sign of I know. So I got to know about all the things. If I don't know about it, I immediately want to understand. So I'm like, moon water, what's that? And so they invited me into a group so that I can learn more. And that's kind of where it really started to begin. I started going to therapy and working on myself. And this is where I feel like some people's journeys differ, is because some people, it's after they're consciously aware of an awakening that they start doing self-love and shadow work. And I had actually actively been doing it and didn't know it prior to me consciously being aware of the awakening. So by the time I was aware that I was an awakening, I had already gone through like dark night, shedding ego. I was already aware that I was already actively doing these things. So I go into the group, and for a lot of people, they come to an awakening, especially people who look like me, so melanated people. And it immediately comes to more direct, like spirits and things of that nature and magic and that stuff. That's not how it happened for me. That came a little later. For me, the first thing that came back were the things that I loved in my childhood, which was astrology and numerology. I loved astrology and numerology as a kid. I didn't know about birth charts as a kid, but I was always into horoscopes. I was always outside with a telescope. I was always into those things. I've always had a fascination with ancient Egypt. I've always had I wanted to be a witch as a child, like actively, like every year for Halloween, please give me my black pointed hat. I am a witch for Halloween each and every year, even through my adult life. That's one of the things that carried forward. American Horror Story, The Next Supreme, that she was me. She was me and I was her. So that's what came first with things that I loved as a kid, astrology and numerology. And numerology tried to show up years prior. A few years ago, I found my life path number, and it scared the crap out of me. And so I ran away from it because it was too big. It was too big for me. And for those that don't know and haven't been following me for a while, I'm a life path 11. So I'm a master number 11, wounded healer, all of these things. And when you go read it, like really understand it, there is a weight to that. And there's this notion like, you chose to come back and do this work. And I'm like, wrong person. You got the wrong person. So I didn't accept it then. What I did do though is come back to it later. And so in 2020, when it came back around again, I was like, oh, okay then. And then I started looking at my birth chart, and then I saw the parallel between what I was seeing in my numerology chart and what I was seeing in my birth chart. So the first thing that I did in my own conscious awakening journey was honestly get to know myself in a way that there wasn't anyone that could show me how to do that at that time in that way. There wasn't someone that sat with me and said, hey, these are the things, these are the tools and the resources that the creator has made available for you to learn who you are. And all you have to do is be conscious, make a conscious decision to access them, because no one told me that. And this is not me I didn't grow up as a Christian. So there wasn't something in my household that said, oh my God, these are, like that wasn't there. So it was just simply, can I learn these things? Can I get to know myself? And so that was the foundation, is learning myself and building a relationship with myself. It wasn't until maybe a few months that ancestral veneration showed up. And that was the next piece. It's again, Orisha didn't show up right away. It was me getting to know me and then getting to know my ancestors. That's the way that it happened. And then shortly thereafter is when Orisha showed up. But it started with me. And that's where I feel like sometimes I'm very fortunate, is because I did a lot of work with me, myself. Even when Orisha showed up, where my learning began is with my Ori. And so for those who are not familiar, your Ori literally in Yoruba means your head. It is your consciousness. It is you. It's literally you. Your Ori is you. Like if someone was to come ask me, well, who's your head Orisha? My Ori is my head Orisha. That's my head. There is no Orishas battling for supremacy over my personality. It's my Ori. And then depending on the situation, which Orisha shows up in how I present. But it was my Ori. So then I started doing what I didn't know then was Ori work. I was venerating myself in my morning ritual. I was giving gratitude for waking up. I was giving gratitude for myself going through this journey. I was giving gratitude for myself being open to receive this information. So then I would say tarot was what came next. And I have never had an aversion to tarot. So when it showed up, I wasn't worried about it. Like it just, you'll know when you're having a conscious awakening because certain things will start to show up in your feed and you're not sure why the algorithm is showing it to you. So for me, it was pick a cards. For me, I was looking up stuff. I was learning about astrology, numerology. So then pick a card showed up. And this at the same time as all of this is going on, my marriage is kind of like it's dissolving and I don't know it. It's breaking down and I don't realize it. That's a lie. That's a lie. I was fully aware of what was happening in my marriage and had been for a while. I just didn't know what to do about it. And so around Mother's Day, I was like, I need to get away. And what is really beautiful around that time is that I was just then sharing with friends that I'm struggling. I was just then sharing with friends that I'm depressed. I remember the first time I sat in a meeting and I talked about depression, and everybody looked at me like, "You're not depressed." Yes, I am. I am very, very much depressed. And they were like, and when I said what I was hiding, and how often that I came to meetings, especially for the women's group, and presented after having a breakdown that no one witnessed. Everybody kind of looked at me like, how are you doing this? And I'm just like, I'm just doing it. I had become so proficient at hiding my emotions. But the thing was, my physical body was trying to tell me to stop bottling my feelings. My physical body was like, don't bottle your feelings anymore. And through my last pregnancy, my blood pressure was like, I'm going to tell on you. You're lying. You're wearing a mask, and I'm about to tell on you so that you'll take this mask off. And I still wasn't trying to take it off. I went up in the hospital twice for my blood pressure while pregnant and still would not take off this mask. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything is fine. Hiding in my car, sobbing, screaming, hiding in my car, crying regularly, lying, just absolute lying to myself and everyone else around me. I just actively was lying. I would not tell the truth that I was in pain. I was sad. I was struggling. And all I wanted was someone to tell me how to get myself out of this hole. I was on antidepressants. Um, there was physical pain in my body that I had no idea where this pain was coming from. No one else knew. Every test of my body said, there's nothing wrong with you, and yet you have an exorbitant amount of inflammation in your body, and nobody knows where it's coming from. And then I'm like, okay, well, what's going on with my stomach? All the way to having an endoscopy. There's nothing going on in your digestive system that should show you why you're doing this. And I'm like, I'm sick. I'm nauseous. My stomach hurts. I don't know what's wrong. I don't want to feel this way. I'm not a fan of medicine. So I'm not trying to just get some medicine. I don't want to take this crap. I need help. And all of this was going on before I was consciously aware that an awakening was happening. So by the time I was aware, I think when I locked my hair. I locked my hair around the same time. And it was spontaneous. This was like, there was no plan. There was no like, hey, I woke up one morning and started 2-strand twisting my hair and locked my hair. That's how it happened. So I'm 2-strand in my hair. I'm like, well, I guess I'm starting my lock journey. And that was that. And then it started coming up. You need an elder. And initially, I felt like I took it literal. I need someone older than me to help me on my journey. And then I realized there wasn't a single teacher on YouTube that I was drawn to that was older than me, not a one. And then I had to go through the process of dismantling the notion that I'm behind because I'm coming to this older than these people that I find that have more information. I just turned 44. This happened in 2020. You can do math. You can do the math there. This is when this happened. I'm like, I wait till I turn 40 and I decide to have an awakening. That makes no sense to me. But It was a fact. And then I realized that ignore the age. Time is a construct. It doesn't exist. It's just something to hold my reality together. And I'm simply on this level. And this is where I'm at on this level. Once I took that away, I went to a friend who was younger than me, who I knew had been consciously on their own awakening journey for the longest. And I'm like, maybe she can help me go through this journey and understand. And so when we had our first session and our first one-on-one, and she asked me, what is it that you want? Like, when working together, what's the outcome? How do you know? And I said, I want a relationship with God. I've always believed in God. There hasn't been a day in my life I can say I didn't believe in a higher power. That's not what it was. My relationship with God was so structured in dogma, in that God is judging me. God is looking at me. God is waiting for me to do something wrong. God is sitting somewhere up on high, waiting for me to mess up. And that was my relationship with God. My relationship with God is I can't get a tattoo or else God's going to, I was growing up as a Hebrew. So God's going to, ostracize me from the chosen people, strict my name out of the book of life because I want a tattoo. All of these things were my relationship with my creator, because that's how the creator was written. That's how the creator was described. And so I was like, I don't want that relationship. I felt like my son died in my arms because I did something wrong. I felt like all the children that I had ever loved in my life were taken from me because I was a bad person. I had done something wrong and made God angry. And that was my relationship with God. And I just said, I don't want to feel that way anymore. And so she's like, okay. And this is where synchronicity happens. That same afternoon, didn't realize it, go to my mailbox, and the very first set of crystals I ever purchased on my own were in the mail. And I grabbed them, and I tell this story all the time. No one told me, don't put all the crystals in your hand. No one told me, don't put all the crystals in your hand. So I grab all the crystals. I'm going in the house happy. Oh, I got my first set of crystals. Put them in my hand, almost hit the floor. And I mean that in a very literal, like, caught the wall to hold myself up, because by then, all of my spiritual gifts activated simultaneously, not build up. Like, when I say simultaneous, I mean simultaneously. So that clairsentient energy feeling showed up, and I could feel every crystal in my hand, and I literally almost shut down. So I was like, oh, I should probably cleanse these and not do that ever again. Not hold them all at once ever again. Shouts out to the 11 energy in my phone right now. So, and hi to everybody that's popped in new. So I worked on me first, getting to know myself. And then I started ancestor work in me first. And then I would just talk to God. And someone asked me, like, well, what do you say? I just talk. That's it. I don't even say, like, I just talk. Like, that's it. I just talk. And then for me, my spiritual practice is very much grounded in things that are logic. Does this make sense? I'll use moon manifestation as a good, really easy example. The moon phases and manifestation are aligned in how the moon impacts Earth. And since we are Earth in a physical vessel, that's how our energy works. So with a new moon, it's a time for setting intention. Well, what is an intention? An intention is a seed. You're putting a seed out there. You're planting something that says, I intend to do this thing. So you're planting the seed in the ground. This is a mirror of what farmers do during a new moon. During the new moon, the moon is close enough to the earth where the gravitational pull of the water in the soil is making the water rise up to the top of the soil, making the soil more nourishing and more fertile for seeds to go in and thus grow and flourish. This is why you set intentions during the new moon. It's because you are more fertile soil to plant that seed in. In the waxing moon, when the water is still nice and nourishing, you're tending the ground, you're tending the soil. This is when you're doing your actual manifestation work to bring about the intention. The intention is the seed. The manifestation work, which is just prayer, affirmation, candles, spells, whatever that is that you do, that work is happening during your waxing season because the soil is nice and nourished and it wants to grow rather quickly. And this is when you can get that to go. This is when you get to the go. The full moon is when it's already grown. Your farmers, your gardeners are harvesting their crops during the full moon. And then you're like, well, there's nothing grown in a month. That's because that's not the full lunar cycle. It is from what the new moon in that zodiac sign to 6 months later, the full moon in that same zodiac sign. That is when you are harvesting the intentions that you set. Thus, it is still in alignment with the moon. This is why my spiritual practice is rooted in logic, because that makes sense to me. When you tell me I can't get to God because I didn't do this thing, but God is unlimited, God is all powerful, I need to know which God it is. Is it God limited or is God unlimited? Because it can't be both. The two things can't be happening simultaneously. I'm either unlimited or I am limited. So if God is unlimited, that means there is an unlimited, a plethora of possibilities for me to connect to the Most High. And for me, who is also a mystic, I want to know them all. I want to connect to God in every single solitary possible way that I could possibly. Hi, JR. Every single solitary way I can possibly connect to the Most High, I want to do it. And thus, that's how my practice has unfolded. And scientifically speaking, energy is neither created nor destroyed, it simply changes form. So if we all come from one original energy, since everything is energy, some energy is moving fast, so we can't see it, like air. Some energy is moving slow, and we can see it, so it's tangible. Either way, it's still an energy. So if all things come from one energy, and that energy then has simply just changed form, that means I'm also that energy. That means I'm also the creator. I'm also the source. So now I have to realize the personal accountability in my life and decisions and how my life experiences have unfolded and how I'm responding to life and how life is responding to me. And lately, that has been a real big part of my healing work, because I will be honest, for the last few days, all I've done is cry. And I'm not sad. I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm not even necessarily crying because something is wrong. Your tears are like a spiritual bath for your body. It is your body releasing because, again, logical. Your physical body releases things: tears, sweat, when you're sick, if you're wounded and you're bleeding. Generally speaking, anything that exits your body is supposed to leave. Anything that you think about, if it exits your body, is not supposed to stay. Whether this is an idea that you need to share, a thought that you need to speak on, whether it is you crying because you feel something that wants to make you cry. So you need to let it out. The notion that you need to hold it in is why you end up with high blood pressure. The notion that you hold it in is why you end up having to do loads of shadow work later. The notion that you have to hold it in is why you end up having all of these traumatic triggers, because you held in that which desired to leave your body. It's like you're constipated with negative. Ooh, that's a good one. You've made yourself constipated with negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions because you decided to hold them in. You need a laxative. That's what shadow work is. And doing this conscious healing work is that's your laxative to release all of the gunk and debris that you've held into your body that you would not allow yourself to release. You have to let that go. And sometimes you don't even realize what you've held on to. Like, I realized that recently, I'll give a good example. I realized that silence from my partner feels like a weapon to me, because I spent time with so many partners that weaponize the silent treatment, that any act of silence to me is triggering to me. If I don't hear from you, if I don't talk to you in a certain amount of time, I immediately feel like I did something wrong, because I was in relationships with people where their first go-to, because words of affirmation are my love language. So the best way to hit me where it hurts is to hurt me with my love language and take away words and take away communication and take away my ability to know where I stand with you. So when that thing is not there, regardless of what's going on around it, my trigger was attached to a wound from previous relationships where my ex would not talk to me. And I mean this in a very literal sense. Like, he would not say a single word to me for weeks. Not just a day, not just hours. I know we went it let the longest a month and they said nothing, absolutely nothing to me. Like I had to actively go to them and say, what you're not going to do is ignore the boys. You can do what you want when it comes to me, but you better speak to them when you walk in this house. A month, and said not one word to me. Do you know what that does to somebody? Like, like, do you absolutely have any idea what that would do to me? Because there was nothing and I was begging. Like, can you tell me what I did? Would beg, absolutely beg. So now what I realized outside of that relationship is that pain is still there. That wound was still there. And I had to actively sit in the midst of my wound and face it and say, this has nothing to do with me. Do you know how hard that is? This absolutely has zero things to do with me. There is nothing wrong. There is absolutely nothing wrong. And this is how this situation is going to work out. And I sat at my altar and I literally just let myself feel. And what I did yesterday, most recently, is I sat at my altar and recited affirmations. And so affirmations are positive. I'm reciting all these positive things, but then I'd get to this one thing and I would immediately cry even harder. I would get to this one thing and I would immediately cry. Good morning, hun. I would immediately cry even harder. So I'm crying about the first thing that I said is, I have wealth in my physical life. I am rich in my physical experience. And I cried so hard. Why did I cry? Because I have slept in my car. I have actively slept in my car because I had no place to go. I have slept in the lobby of places that were open 24 hours because I had no place to sleep. I have walked around at night because I didn't have a car at the time because I had no way to get into the place that I was supposed to be staying in. I know what that feels like. When people ask me, why do I always want to give something to the homeless? Because I was them. I didn't look like them. I was hanging out with some of my friends and had no place to sleep and they had no idea. Actively going to hang out, going to do all these things, and literally had no idea where food was going to come from. But I had so much hurt that I didn't want to be a burden. I would not say anything, not even to my parents in the same city. Like it had to be pushed on me to go back home. It had to be pushed on me to go back home. So I know what that feels like. So when I said that affirmation yesterday, it was like my shadow was like, that's not the truth. And I'm like, no, it is. No, it is. We got laid off several months ago, but our bills are paid. Please understand this. I got laid off in October from a job that I had for 10 years. My bills are paid. My bills are paid. Understand that we have what we need. And if we need it, it will be had. Period. That's just and so I had to say it to myself until I could smile saying it. I said it to myself over and over again until I could make myself cheese and laugh and say the words and say the thing. Then I said, I have love. I am loved in my physical existence. I am loved. And when I say that one, that one right there sent me into a whole fit of sobbing. Like, I'm loved. I am loved. We are loved. We are lovable. We are loved. And over again. Then I'm like, he loves me. He loves me. He loves me. And I'm sobbing and sobbing until finally I was like, come. Then I paused and I said, shadow. And I looked at her. And for those who was like literally and figuratively, I looked at her. And I intended that I'm looking at myself sitting in this darkness because your shadow is not something ugly. It's not something that needs to be let go of. A shadow don't exist where there's no light. Let me say that again. Your shadow can't exist if there is not light trying to get to it. There is an obstacle in the way that causes there to be a shadow. There's something blocking that causes the shadow to be present. And so our job in shadow work is not to obliterate the shadow, it's to illuminate it. It's to knock the obstacle out the way, because within the shadow is our power. Within the shadow is our genius. Our shadow is simply that unconscious part of ourselves that is aware of so many things, but there's a wall of wounds hiding it. There's a wall of wounds and trauma and other things and limiting beliefs that's hiding it. And so you have to knock it the F down and shine a light on the shadow so that it can be seen, so that it can be illuminated. You're not supposed to get rid of it. You're supposed to shine a light on it and embrace it. And I have never felt a need to disown her. I have only ever felt the need to embrace her, even if I'm doing protection work. And for me, my protection work may look like me shielding my house. And very early in my journey, my visualization was me in white and me in black, holding hands together, and we together, light and shadow, are protecting my home. We are the one calling the light down to protect it. So yesterday, I just held my hand out to her. And I was like, I want to feel you put your hand in mine and know that we are loved. And I am so sorry I let us believe. Ask Shaheem to get it. To like just that notion that I couldn't have love, I had to let it go. I absolutely had to let go of the notion that I couldn't have love. And once I did, it was like, hey, I am loved. And so later on, I said, this is how this is going to work out. I'm going to get a text. All is well. Everything's cool. And I'm just going to be like, I missed you. And then I missed you too. And everything's going to be back to normal. And when I say within less than 5 minutes, and I mean that, within less than 5 minutes, phone goes off. I'm sorry, my phone has been jacked up. And I'm like, yeah, show you right. That's what it is. That's what it is.
I want Pac-Man ponies.
Go get them. Do you want to watch it?
Get them,
Where's Pac-Man at?
Where's Pac-Man?
Where is Pac-Man at?
I think we went outside.
Did you throw Pac-Man out the window? Oh, well, guess what it's going to say? I'm not getting it. Go play with a dinosaur or something. I'm not getting Pac-Man. Go play with a dinosaur.
No.
Y'all hold on a second, because my son threw something outside and I'm trying to figure out how. I can't believe it. So many things outside. So many things. The things are outside. No show. Y'all didn't pay for a show. Y'all not tipping for no show. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to go do mom things and figure out why my children are throwing toys out the window. But okay, that's what we do. That it's part of the joining. So yeah, the awakening, the healing, that's continues. And that's why when I think about the fact that I initiated, that was not, if you had told me that I would be a priest at Ifa, years. Oh no, not even in 2020, not even actively at the beginning of my journey in learning about Orisha, which if you had told me that I'd be crowned and all, no, 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 no. And but it happened so beautifully. Like it wasn't like if you don't do this, you're gonna suck or anything like that. It's not. And I know so many people who are like, well, if I go into an ATR, an African traditional or an African derived practice, I am I'm gonna have to disconnect, like I'm gonna lose myself. And that's not the case at all. Like it's not at all. Y'all have seen me do tarot readings and all of these good things, and I still that is still a part of who my existence. I am still who I am. I'm still who I am. And I'm always very grateful for that. I'm always really, really grateful. Having a consciously aware of a spiritual awakening also has helped me in terms of being a single mom, actually being a mom, period. Whether I'm a single mom, whether I get married, when I get married again, whatever the case may look like, momming during an awakening is a real that is so interesting, but it is so necessary. It's so necessary because then I can, and it's not that I don't have regular human reactions to my kids being like off the chain. Like just now, there's a window in their playroom that doesn't have a screen in it. And they're going to do little kid things like, I'm going to open this window when no one's looking and I'm going to throw things outside. So, guess what? All of your toys that you threw outside, they're going to sit there. Sit there. And I'm going to keep my head cool. Keep the head cool. I will regularly pour water over my head to keep it cool, to keep myself centered. I have those moments, but it also helps me more often because I understand where they are, their kids, and things like that. It also helps me give myself grace as a mother. And I think that's why, especially when it comes to E5, that I crowned Yemo job because she helps me understand I have always been mother. She helps me understand I've always been mother. I have been mothering people all of my life, even as a child. I've been a mother all my life. I know how to do this. And I need to believe that I'm a good mother and not immediately go into the space of beating myself up because I fussed at my kids or beating myself up because I got impatient this one time with my child. I don't have to beat myself up in order to be a good mom. And I don't have to be a perfect mom. I just have to be the best mom I can possibly be and have patience as much as I can possibly have it. But I have two children with a special set of needs. I have two very awesome children, varying degrees on the spectrum, but they are who they are. And that ability for me to move through this journey, I don't know that I could do that if my awakening had been aware I was having an awakening. I immediately, when I got the diagnosis for my 7-year-old, this happened just after I'm finding out I'm pregnant with his brother. I'm pregnant with his brother. He's maybe just short of like 13, 14 months old. All things were happening like they normally do. And then all of a sudden, everything stopped. He stopped speaking. He stopped responding to his name. All of these things that he was doing from the womb, like not like from the womb, aware of his name. And all of a sudden, I say his name and he doesn't even look at me. If I had not also been having an awakening shortly thereafter, I don't know what I would be right now. A basket case. A basket case would probably be because I would immediately be beating myself up this entire time. Oh, it's because you had children late in your life. Oh, it's because you did this. Even my ex said to me, well, he'd be talking if he was in daycare. Okay. All righty then. All of these things would have torn me to shreds if I did not feel like I had some support. And even when I don't feel like I have corporeal, physical, human support, I always know that I have, oh, hey, mommy. I always have spiritual support. Like I am definitely someone that is acutely aware I'm never by myself. And I didn't realize how long I was probably aware of it. Like, I'm not one of those people, you're not going to hear me say, oh, I saw this as a kid and did this as a kid. If you ask me if I had any spiritual gifts as a child, clairvoyance is the one, and claircognizant. I've always had really vivid dreams because your clairvoyance will also manifest as really vivid dreams, and they were occasionally prophetic. That was happening as a kid, always happening as a kid. But anything else, like you say, if I saw a spirit or something, if I did, I didn't know it. I'll just say, like, if I did, I didn't know it. Witchcraft was always something I was interested in as a kid. I was always pretending to make spells, but to say I was actively doing it as a child, like actively, no. I think there's one spell that I unintentionally cast, but with much intention as I was saying it, and I had to break it recently because I really told somebody, oh, love you. I had to actively, like, oh my God, I may have created something I didn't, or maybe I intended, let me lie. I was hurt, 19 years old and hurt, and I absolutely intended what I said, but I didn't really realize it would have ramifications 20 years later. Maybe I hoped it would, but I didn't realize it. Like, you will never, ever, ever find another like me, ever in your life. And it will always belong to me, was the essence of what I said to this person. And now, if they're with someone, we can't be friends. Like, we don't talk right now because they're with somebody. And they can't talk to me when they're with someone because they won't focus on them. Their attention will be directed to me. So we don't talk. And that's hurtful, like, because they meant a lot to me. But I also realized what I said probably had a huge impact on that being the case. And so I had to, like, I release that. Like, that's no longer, I release that. And even now, sometimes you say stuff in the throes of something, and I'm really conscious of what I say, depending on what's happening, because that energy, yeah, be careful what you say. When you said whose is it, you might want to be mindful that whose is it phrase, and this belongs to me. You might want to be mindful in that moment, because that's a lot of potent energy of the creator happening while you're speaking words. Just just saying. Okay, so it's after 12, and I said I was going to try to get off around 12 because I want to make sure that I get my son off to, what's he have today? Speech therapy on time. So if you didn't catch this from the beginning, I'm going to do this real fast at the end, but thank you so much for watching. Hi, I am Iadania, and I am a spiritual awakening doula for Black and Brown people in the African American community, the Black diaspora within the Americas. And I do this work because I know what it's like to have an awakening. I'm not so far removed from my awakening journey that I don't remember. I remember what I felt like during my awakening, but what I do notice is that a lot of people don't take people through the awakening and ground them in self-love. They talk about, well, these are the crystals you need, these are the candles you need, blah, blah, blah. But they don't talk about grounding them into self-love. They don't talk about connecting with their higher self, their favorite self, their Ori, and grounding that relationship with that aspect of themselves, so that when it comes to making additional choices along their spiritual path, they're confident in the decisions they make. They don't feel like they need to backtrack because they've already built the foundational relationships with themselves. So I am working on revamping. I already had a practically spiritual journey program. It's a 6-month program, but I'm turning it into a group program. So I am revamping that. I have a waiting list available regardless of where, well, I guess on YouTube, I'll add it to the description box. But if you're on Facebook and go to my link tree, it's the first or second link in my link tree. If you're on TikTok and you go to my link tree, it's the first or second link in my link tree. But this 6-month journey will take you through first grounding in self-love, because I feel like If you love yourself, that is how you build a relationship with God. It's by loving yourself, because you and the Most High are one. So grounding in the self-love for me is where that should actually begin. Begin with self-love. Begin with self-love. And then you start moving into the other things. Okay, you love yourself. You're doing the shadow work. You have a great relationship with yourself. Cool. We'll learn how to do protection work. Amazing. Let's do some protection work and learn how to do that, because now we're going to move into trusting your intuition and knowing what your intuition feels like, and you having a one-on-one conversation with the creator and asking those yes or no questions and get a definitive yes or no right there in real time in the moment, so you don't got to wait. How beautiful is that? Like, and then what do you pay for that? I could sit there and ask a question to God, and God will give me an immediately yes that is a clear yes. I don't have to read a parable. I know that this is a yes, and I can make this move with this yes and feel confident in my yes. What does that cost? What is it worth? And how do you put a price on it? I'm going to attempt to, but how do you put a price on that? Then we'll go into ancestor veneration, because going into ancestor veneration will allow you the opportunity to connect deeper with yourself. Connecting with the ancestors is not simply about venerating, because it's not a worship, it's a veneration, it's an upliftment. It's building a relationship with your family that has transitioned on, but that family lives also within your blood and your bones. So this is not a separation thing. This is continuing work to elevate yourself. This is continuous work to elevate who you are in the depths of your being. This is how you do that work. Then when you decide to tap into other things, you'll know what's for you. You'll know, should I get into crystals? Is this for me? Because some people get into crystals because they see other spiritual people do it, and that's not the tool for you. That's not something you're supposed to connect to. But if you haven't built a relationship with yourself, you're just mimicking everybody else. So I'm not going to tell you to tap into crystals. If you decide you want to do crystal work, cool. We'll talk about crystals. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to talk about you. In fact, the whole 6 months is going to be mostly about you. We won't get into the ancestors till the very end. All of it is going to be about you and you cultivating an actual spiritual practice that you can stick to. Not something that you could stick to it and you'll feel like, this is my spiritual practice. I'm not doing this spiritual work simply because someone told me to. I want to do this. I enjoy doing this. I poured liquor for my spirits this morning because I was glad to. I wanted to. I enjoy doing it, because I was grateful for them stepping in with me as I was trying to heal in myself. So my inspired action, because I like to leave y'all with one, and hold on, because my cupcake been sitting here all lonely and stuff. Strawberry and vanilla. My favorite. So my inspired action for you today, if you're someone who feels like you have been going through a conscious awakening and you have been floating, you know someone that's been going through a conscious awakening and they've been floating and they need direction. Because I will say, the one thing that I will say is a mentor during this journey really does change the game for you. You feel like you want a mentor, go look at other content I did. Like, don't make a decision off this. Go look at other stuff. And if you feel like we are energetically aligned, please go ahead and go to the waiting list in my bio. Join the waiting list. You'll get some information about, and it'll give you as an intake form. So it'll, like, if you do that whole form, then I know you're serious. So we'll do that, and give me a few weeks and I'll probably announce the official start date of the program. I also have, for my womb holders, March 25th. I think that's a Saturday. Here in Augusta, Georgia, at the Savannah Rapids Pavilion, I am hosting a ritual. I am hosting a womb holders, goddess activation, ethereal embracing ritual, where we are going to do some self-love work there together. We are going to do some healing. There'll be some channel messages. I'm going to be doing energy healing for the entire group, as well as us going to the river and giving offerings to the mothers. So if you are interested, that is on the events page on my website. Tickets are available. You can pay for those tickets all in full, or you can break it up in payments using Pay in 4. So by all means, consider doing that. I do have a similar situation happening for the fellas coming up in the summertime, so be on the lookout for that. But otherwise, thank you so much. If you're new, make sure you're following me. Thank you for the support. And now I have to go figure out why my children are making all this noise. Y'all, please pray for me and have a good day.